my soul could revive from my carnal remains, what does it matter to me? If it all fades to black, if I'm born once again, and no one really is free.
One of the most fascinating aspects of belief in the supernatural is that so many religions and other belief systems have a shared core belief in common, the existence of a soul or a spirit. I've had many discussions on this topic with people with very different beliefs, and this seems to be a crucial step in asserting the validity of a supernatural claim. Almost all claims of supernatural phenomena rely on this idea being true, including, but certainly not limited to, ghosts, poltergeists, out-of-body experiences, astral projection, talking to the dead, or more accurately getting a response, the afterlife, remote viewing, reincarnation, past lives, karma, demons, angels, chi, chakras, acupuncture, witchcraft, ritual magic, akashic records, body thetans, auras, possession, and soulmates. In every case, if you take out the existence of souls, the claim falls apart due to making absolutely no sense. Does the fact that all of these different beliefs share a common core belief make the claim more plausible? Not really, especially when you consider that many of the above list are mutually exclusive beliefs. Even if that were not the case, however, there's still one tiny little problem, proving that a soul actually exists. It's been tried many times over the centuries, the most famous attempt being that of Duncan McDougall, MD, of Haverhill, Massachusetts. In the early 20th century, Dr. McDougall performed several experiments attempting to weigh the human body before, during, and after physical death. He theorized that the soul must have a material component and therefore should be detectable by these means. As is probably already obvious, his findings were inconclusive. So what is a soul? The question is an important one because, like most supernatural ideas, no two people seem to have the same definition of what a soul actually is. Let us therefore try to accommodate the vast majority of beliefs requiring a soul with this general definition. The soul or spirit is a part of the human body which is able to exist outside of the body, even after death, and contains at least part of the personality of the human host. That should be generic enough to avoid most objections. Now let us examine the definition more closely. First, there's the idea that there's part of the human body which can exist outside of the body, but which is somehow linked to the personality or behavior of the human host. Medical science has advanced in leaps and bounds over the last 100 years or so, and this has led to a profound understanding of the human body and its relationship to the brain. So much so that virtually any emotion or behavior pattern can be reliably attributed to particular areas or functions of the brain. Scientists have yet to find any aspect of thought or emotion which does not originate from within the brain. Furthermore, there is no evidence that a mind can exist without a brain to create it. Brains are curious things. They generally require stuff like a body, food, oxygen, blood flow, electrical impulses, that sort of thing. In fact, we have exactly 0 examples of a mind which exists without a brain. Next, we need to examine this idea that someone's personality is linked with their soul in some way. Again, with science, we've nailed down the parts of the brain which produce personality. And in fact, studies have shown that brain damage or defects can actually have the net effect of changing someone into a completely different person. Since we already have a rough understanding of the link between personality and the human body, there's no need for a soul to serve this purpose. The brain can do it all. So having established the lack of a biological need for a soul to exist, let us now turn to some of the problems that science has raised regarding souls or spirits.
And one group of patients we have studied is split brain patients or commissurotomy patients. These are people whose corpus callosum has been cut, and anterior commissure and massa intermedia whenever encountered. So essentially you're doing a karate chop right through the head and creating 2 human beings in one body, in one skull, 2 spheres of consciousness. Now, many experiments have been done on these people, and I asked myself a very simple question. Okay, you've created two people here. What about their personalities? Do they have different personalities? What about their aesthetic preferences? Does one like blondes and the other like brunettes, for example? One like chocolate and the other like vanilla? What happens? So we tried these experiments, and what we did was we had to first train the right hemisphere to communicate with us. In fact, the right hemisphere can read simple commands, simple words, simple sentences, and then you ask a question and say, point to a box, yes, no, I don't know, because it can't talk. The right hemisphere cannot talk, but it can comprehend simple semantics, simple questions. Left hemisphere, of course, can talk, so you can present boxes, yes, no, I don't know. So we asked, for example, are you at Caltech? And the right hemisphere pointed to yes. Are you on the moon? It said no. Are you in California? It said yes. Are you asleep? It said no. Then I said, are you a woman? And the patient was male. And he pointed to yes, and then started chuckling and laughing. So at least the right hemisphere has a sense of humor. Okay. Okay, so now comes the big question. What if you ask, do you believe in God? So I said, do you believe in God? And the right hemisphere went straight to yes, right? Asked the same question to the left hemisphere, yes, no, I don't know. It went to no, right? So here's a human being whose right hemisphere is an atheist, and left hemisphere, on the other hand, believes in God. And this finding should have sent a tsunami through the theological community, but barely produced a ripple, because it raises all kinds of profound theological questions. If this person dies, what happens? Does one hemisphere go to heaven and the other go to hell? I don't know the answer to that.
The observations of biology raise some very deep questions. Since we now understand that life does not begin or end, but has been a continuous process for over 3 billion years, then which living creatures possess a soul and which ones do not? If some creatures do not, then what is the determining factor for who gets one? At what point during development does the soul come into existence? Cloning, itself a direct result of our understanding of evolution, also poses some interesting questions. It's been said that human cloning renders ridiculous the idea of a soul. For example, if you were to clone a human being, would it receive its own soul? Would it share a soul with the original? And if so, does that mean that the clone can affect the original soul? What if the clone were herself cloned? Would the soul now inhabit 3 completely autonomous bodies? Is the clone born without a soul? If so, then what happens when he or she wants to join a religion? Science is also moving closer and closer to being able to create human hybrid creatures. Would these strange new species have souls? What if the brains of these creatures were so completely different that there were no recognizable features that we would normally attach to a souled being, such as free will? Would it have half of a soul? If in the future science was able to recreate the entirety of the human brain using synthetic materials, and this brain exhibited all of the exact same personality and or behavioral patterns that we recognize as human, then would this electronic mind machine have a soul? If not, then what if this being later decides to join a religion?
Life forms, you tiny little life forms, you precious little life forms, where are you?
What if life arose on other planets in the universe, as is a mathematical certainty, and one or more forms of intelligence arose by evolutionary means? Would these alien beings possess souls? The ultimate underlying problem with the entire soul argument is the fact that there's absolutely no way to actually answer any of these questions. It would require an act of Congress just to be able to corral 2 or more people into agreeing on what a soul actually is, much less how one would go about finding one. And how would we go about finding it? Well, this is how science actually works. There's an observation of some phenomena which is not understood or not well understood. So a careful, reasoned hypothesis is created in order to explain the observed phenomena. This hypothesis must make testable predictions and or retrodictions, and it must be falsifiable, which means you must be able to provide at least one scenario under which the hypothesis can be proven false. Then, study or research is performed in order to test the predictions or retrodictions and determine if they are accurate. This is referred to as gathering evidence. If all of the evidence supports the hypothesis and none of the evidence contradicts it, then the easy part is over. Now your entire process must be repeated under the same conditions by others in your field of study. And to say that the peer review process is brutal is most likely a gross understatement. You must be prepared to receive criticisms about your premises, your methods, your findings, and your conclusions. You must be prepared for the possibility that another scientist will present evidence which falsifies your hypothesis. If your hypothesis does not stand up, you either throw it out or you rework it and start again from the beginning. If, however, after this long and grueling process, your hypothesis is able to stand completely on its own within the scientific community, if it has withstood the tests of experts all across the globe, then it will have become a true scientific theory, right alongside germ theory and the theory of gravity. Your theory may even have deeper implications, which can then be explored and further tested. In fact, your theory will never stop being tested once it is firmly placed in the realm of science. Now, if you're skeptically minded, you can probably recognize where the idea of a soul lies along this scientific process. It doesn't even make it to the first step. There's no observable phenomena that would even imply the existence of a soul in the first place, which means the exact same thing as the following statement. There is no reason to believe that souls exist. Remember that list from before? Each and every single one of those supernatural claims hinges upon the existence of a soul. I'll leave you to ponder the implications. Now, if you have observable, testable evidence for the existence of souls, please invite me to your Nobel Prize acceptance speech, and afterward I will happily issue a correction of this video. Thanks for watching.